every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Ostracized Guest. Sir, I need you to leave. The security guard's voice carried no sympathy, just cold professionalism. Angelo Cross stood his ground, his jaw tightening as he watched his daughter Polly twirl in her wedding dress across the grand ballroom. Her laughter echoed, a sound that once brought him joy but now felt like daggers to his heart. His ex-wife Elvira's orchestration was evident in the way the guests pointedly avoided his gaze, creating an invisible barrier around him. I have a right to be here. That's my daughter getting married. Angelo's voice remained steady, controlled, masking the rage building inside him. The bride specifically requested your removal, the guard insisted, taking a step closer. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. From across the room, Elvira approached, her designer dress rustling softly against the marble floor. Her beauty remained undimmed by the years, but Angelo now saw through the facade to the darkness beneath. Still trying to ruin special moments, Angelo? Elvira's voice dripped with false sweetness. You weren't invited. You need to leave. You've poisoned her against me, Angelo said, his dark eyes fixed on Elvira's face. Turned my own daughter. Your daughter? Elvira's laugh was sharp, cutting. She hasn't been your daughter since you abandoned us. Abandoned? Angelo's hands clenched into fists. Is that the story you're telling everyone? That I abandoned you? Not that I caught you in bed with. Security, Elvira called out, her mask of civility slipping. Remove him. Now. 2 more guards appeared, flanking Angelo. He could have fought them, his body tensed, ready for conflict, but he controlled himself. This wasn't the time or place for what he had planned. This isn't over, Elvira, he said quietly, his tone making her step back despite herself. It was over years ago, Angelo. Go home to your empty house and your bitter memories. As the guards escorted him out, Angelo caught a glimpse of Polly. Their eyes met briefly, and he saw nothing but contempt in her gaze. His daughter, or the young woman he'd raised as his daughter, turned away, dismissing him completely. Outside in the parking lot, Angelo sat in his car, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The memory of 5 years ago surfaced, sharp and clear as broken glass. 5 years earlier. The house was silent when Angelo returned early from his business trip. He'd meant to surprise Elvira, bringing her favorite chocolates from Switzerland. Instead, he found her phone on the kitchen counter, notifications lighting up the screen. One message preview caught his eye. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to have you in my arms again. Wreck. Angelo stood there, reading message after message, each one revealing years of deception. Photos, intimate conversations, plans made while he was away on business. His hands trembled, not with grief, but with fury. He waited in the darkened living room until Elvira returned home. She flipped on the lights and froze, seeing him there. Angelo, you're home early. Her surprise quickly shifted to charm, but it was too late. He could see through her now. How long? His voice was quiet, dangerous. What do you mean, darling? Rex Aguilar. He held up her phone. How long have you been sleeping with him? The charm vanished from her face, replaced by calculation. You went through my phone? How dare you invade my privacy? Your privacy? Angelo stood, his presence filling the room. What about our marriage vows? What about the trust one placed in you? Oh, please, Elvira sneered, dropping all pretense. Trust? You were never here. Always at work, always on trips. What did you expect? I expected loyalty. I expected honor. He stepped closer. I expected my wife not to be a whore. The slap echoed in the room. Elvira's handprint burned on his cheek, but Angelo didn't flinch. Get out, she hissed. Get out of my house. Your house? I paid for everything here. Everything you have, I gave you. And I gave you my youth, my best years. Elvira's voice turned mocking. Poor Angelo, so dedicated to his work, so blind to what was happening under his nose. Rex is twice the man you'll ever be. Angelo's laugh was cold. We'll see about that. Back in the present, Angelo started his car. The The humiliation at the wedding wasn't unexpected. It was part of their pattern of trying to break him. But they had no idea what he was capable of, what he had become in these years of planning. He drove to a modern office building downtown, taking the elevator to the top floor. His assistant, Glenda McDowell, waited at her desk despite the late hour. "They threw you out?" she asked, rising to follow him into his office. As expected, Angelo loosened his tie. "Is Lola here?" In the conference room with the files, Lola Moyer looked up as Angelo entered, her sharp features focused on the documents spread before her. "How was the wedding?" "Predictably hostile." Angelo sat down. "What did you find?" "Enough to bury them both," Lola said, pushing forward a folder. "Rex's financial records show a pattern of fraud going back years." "And Elvira? She's been siphoning money from your old joint accounts since before the divorce." "Good." Angelo opened his laptop, pulling up a document titled Project Justice. "Time to begin, then. Are you sure about this?" Glenda asked, not out of doubt but confirmation. Angelo's smile was devoid of warmth. "They thought they could humiliate me, break me, turn my own daughter against me. They're about to learn that betrayal has consequences." Lola began organizing the files. "I'll contact our investigator first thing tomorrow. Once we have surveillance in place." "No," Angelo interrupted. "We start tonight. They think this is their moment of triumph, watching me get thrown out of my daughter's wedding. Let's use that. They'll be celebrating, careless. Perfect time to begin documenting their mistakes." He turned to Glenda. "Contact Donnie Johns. I want eyes on them within the hour. Every move, every meeting, every phone call. I want it all recorded." "Already done," Glenda replied, holding up her phone. "He's waiting for your signal." Angelo nodded, satisfaction coursing through him. The years of planning, of watching, of building his resources while appearing defeated. It was all about to pay off. "One thing," Lola said, her tone cautious. "You should know. I did some digging into Polly's birth records." Angelo held up his hand. "I don't want to know. Not yet. First, we deal with Elvira and Rex. That's our priority." He stood, walking to his desk where a chessboard sat, pieces arranged mid-game. He moved a black knight into position. "They think the game is over," he said softly. "They don't realize it's just beginning." The knight stretched ahead, filled with plans and preparations. In his office high above the city, Angelo Cross began his transformation from victim to victor, from betrayed husband to architect of justice. The pain of betrayal hadn't lessened over the years. He had simply learned to forge it into a weapon. And now, that weapon was ready to strike. Chapter 2. The Desperate Plea. The celebration of Polly's wedding lasted well into the night. Champagne flowed freely, toasts were made, and the happy couple danced under crystal chandeliers. But at 2:47 a.m., everything changed with a single phone call. Angelo sat in his home office, reviewing the surveillance photos Donnie had already sent from the wedding reception. The images showed Elvira and Rex, caught in intimate moments they thought were private. His phone buzzed, Elvira's number flashing on the screen. He let it ring 4 times, savoring each desperate ring, before answering. "Angelo?" Elvira's voice trembled. "Angelo, I need your help." "Wrong number," he replied coldly, moving to hang up. "Please." "The police. They're asking questions about a hit and run near your old house. The victim's car was found in Miller's Lake. They think I was involved." Angelo leaned back in his chair, a small smile playing on his lips. "And why would they think that? Someone saw a car like mine in the area that night. I need you to tell them I was with you." "Please, Angelo. They're talking about murder charges. Let me understand this." Angelo's voice turned silky smooth. "You want me to provide you with an alibi? After you just had security throw me out of my daughter's wedding? That was different. This is serious. I could go to jail." "Sounds like a personal problem." "Daddy?" Polly's voice came on the line, thick with tears. "Please help Mom. I know we've had our differences, but..." "Differences?" Angelo cut her off. "Is that what you call it? Turning your back on me? Believing her lies?" "They weren't lies. You abandoned us. Ask your mother about Rex Aguilar. Ask her how long she was sleeping with him, while I worked to give you both everything you wanted." Silence filled the line, broken only by muffled sobs. The police will be here soon. Elvira came back on, her voice desperate. They're bringing a detective. Please, Angelo. For old times' sake. Old times. Angelo's laugh was harsh. Like when you told everyone I was an abusive husband. Or when you emptied our accounts. Those old times. I'm begging you. Goodbye, Elvira. Enjoy your conversation with the police. He ended the call, then immediately dialed another number. Glenda? They took the bait. Contact Loretta Rowe. Tell her it's time for her to unburden her conscience. Within an hour, Angelo sat in a quiet cafe, watching Loretta fidget with her coffee cup. The woman had aged since he'd last seen her. Elvira's former best friend, now a nervous wreck. They'll kill me if they find out I talked to you, Loretta whispered, glancing around the empty cafe. No one knows you're here, Angelo assured her. Tell me what happened that night. Loretta took a shaky breath. They were drunk. Elvira and Rex, they'd been celebrating something at the Blue Room. I was there earlier but left before it happened. They hit someone on Miller's Road, a man walking his dog, and they panicked. Rex called his friend Gary Galloway. He helps Rex with certain problems. They put the man's body in his own car, drove it into the lake. The dog ran away. You saw this? Loretta shook her head. Elvira came to my house after. She was hysterical, drinking more, confessing everything. My security camera caught it all. I've kept the recording, thinking maybe you did the right thing, Angelo said softly. The recording? She pulled out a USB drive with trembling hands. Here. But please, don't tell them it came from me. Rex's friend Gary, he's dangerous. He's done things for Rex before. What kind of things? Bad things. Really bad. Rex isn't just Elvira's lover. He's connected. Organized crime, fraud, money laundering. Gary handles the violent stuff. Angelo pocketed the USB drive. You're sure about this? About Rex's criminal connections? Positive. Elvira, she knows everything. She helps him hide money, creates fake accounts. She's not just a cheater, Angelo. She's part of their operation. Angelo stood, placing a hand on Loretta's shoulder. You'll be protected. I promise. Back in his office, Angelo watched the security footage. Elvira, drunk and hysterical, detailed everything. The affair, the hit and run. Rex's criminal enterprise. It was more than he'd hoped for. His phone buzzed, a text from Donnie Johns. Found Rex's police record. Multiple fraud investigations, suspected ties to Martinez cartel. Want the full file? Angelo smiled. Send everything. Time to introduce Detective Bernice Welch to our little drama. He turned to his computer, beginning a careful anonymous email to the detective. Evidence would be released slowly, strategically. Let them sweat. Let them turn on each other. His phone buzzed again, Elvira calling. He denied the call, then opened his project file and began a new entry. Day 1. Phase 1 initiated. Targets showing signs of panic. Evidence secured. Loretta Rowe's testimony recorded. Rex's criminal connections confirmed. Detective Welch to receive first evidence package tomorrow. He closed the file, satisfaction flowing through him. They thought they were dealing with the same man they'd betrayed years ago. They were wrong. That man died the day he found those messages on Elvira's phone. In his place stood someone else. Someone who had spent years learning patience, cultivating resources, and planning for this moment. The police would be questioning them now, watching their stories unravel. Soon, Rex's criminal connections would surface. The careful facade they'd built would crack, then shatter. And Angelo would be there, watching it all fall apart, piece by carefully arranged piece. Chapter 3. The trap is set. Detective Bernice Welch frowned at the anonymous email in her inbox. Normally, she ignored such tips, but this one was different, detailed, specific, with attached audio files that made her sit up straight in her chair. The recording played through her computer speakers. Elvira Cross's drunken voice confessing to a hit and run, mentioning Rex Aguilar and Gary Galloway. Background checks on all three revealed a web of suspicious activities and connections. Detective Officer Martinez knocked on her door. The witness is here. The one who saw the car that night. Bernice nodded, clicking through Rex Aguilar's extensive record. Multiple fraud investigations, suspected organized crime connections, but nothing had ever stuck. Until now. In the interview room, the witness, an elderly man walking his own dog that night, described seeing a silver Mercedes swerving on Miller's Road. Heard a thump, then screaming. Dog barking. Then the car sped away. And you're sure about the time? Check my Fitbit data, he said, pushing forward a printed report. I walk the same route every night. 11:47 p.m. when I heard the crash. Back at his office, Angelo watched the investigation unfold through carefully placed sources. Donnie Johns had connections in the police department, feeding him updates on Detective Welch's progress. They're bringing in Gary Galloway for questioning, Glinda reported, entering with fresh coffee. And I've got something else you should see. She handed him a folder. Inside were bank statements, dozens of them, all tied to Elvira. She's been busy, Angelo mused, flipping through the pages. Multiple accounts, all using her maiden name. Money flowing in from Rex's companies, then disappearing into offshore accounts. There's more, Glinda said. Those accounts? They're linked to known money laundering operations. Rex isn't just a fraudster. He's washing money for drug cartels. Angelo's phone buzzed. Carlton Hurley, the investigative journalist he'd contacted earlier that week. Mr. Cross? You were right about those shell companies. I found a pattern going back years. Real estate deals, fake businesses, all funneling money through your ex-wife's accounts. How did you know? Let's meet, Angelo said. I have more information you might find interesting. At a quiet bar across town, Carlton Hurley scribbled notes as Angelo laid out the story, carefully edited to protect his own involvement. So Rex Aguilar uses legitimate businesses as fronts, Carlton clarified, with Elvira Cross handling the financial side. And now they're both implicated in a hit-and-run murder. Along with Gary Galloway, Angelo added. A man with an interesting history of making problems disappear. This is explosive stuff, Carlton said. But I'll need evidence. Angelo slid a USB drive across the table. Bank records, corporate filings, witness statements. Everything you need to verify independently. As Carlton left with the drive, Angelo received a text from Lola. Financial records acquired. You need to see this. In Lola's office, the evidence of Elvira's financial misconduct spread across 3 monitors. Bank statements, transfer records, and corporate documents painted a picture of systematic theft and fraud. She didn't just take your money during the divorce, Lola explained, highlighting transactions. She's been embezzling from the company accounts for years. Look at these transfers. Angelo leaned forward, studying the patterns. Each transaction was carefully disguised as legitimate business expenses, but the money always ended up in accounts controlled by Rex's shell companies. How much? Millions, Lola said grimly. She used her position as your wife to access company accounts, then created a complex web of transfers. The money funded Rex's operations and their lavish lifestyle. Angelo's jaw tightened. Send everything to Detective Welch. Anonymously. Already done. But there's something else. Lola pulled up another document. I found evidence that Rex has been using your company's legitimate contracts as cover for his illegal operations. Each real deal has a shadow deal behind it. Perfect. Angelo smiled coldly. That gives us leverage over his entire operation. The next morning, Carlton Hurley's first article hit the news websites. Local business figure linked to international money laundering operation. The story carefully laid out Rex's criminal connections, with Elvira's role heavily implied but not directly stated. Yet, Angelo's phone buzzed continuously with messages from mutual acquaintances, each expressing shock and asking for comments. He ignored them all, focusing instead on the surveillance photos Donnie had just sent. The images showed Rex and Gary meeting in a parking garage, their body language tense and hostile. Another showed Elvira entering a law office known for defending organized crime figures. They're scrambling, Glinda observed, reviewing the photos. Rex and Gary had a heated argument. Looks like their partnership is cracking under pressure. Good, Angelo said. Time to apply more pressure. Release the next batch of evidence to Detective Welch. The detective received another anonymous email, this one containing detailed records of Gary Galloway's movements the night of the hit and run, along with cell phone tower data placing all three suspects in the vicinity. In her office, Detective Welch organized the growing evidence on her investigation board. Phone records, financial documents, witness statements, and surveillance photos created a damning picture. She'd never had a case where evidence appeared so consistently, each piece fitting perfectly with the others. It's almost like someone's orchestrating this, she mused to her partner. Maybe someone is, he replied. That banker they hit? Turns out he was investigating suspicious transactions at his bank. Transactions linked to Rex Aguilar's companies. So it wasn't just a random hit and run, Welch said. It was murder disguised as an accident. Back in his office, Angelo reviewed the final pieces of his plan for Act 1. The evidence was in place, the media was involved, and the investigation was moving forward. Most importantly, his targets were feeling the pressure, making mistakes. Carlton's next article runs tomorrow, Glinda reported. This one focuses on Elvira's role in the financial crimes. He's got quotes from former employees about suspicious transactions. And Loretta? Safely away. We've got her in a secured location, with round-the-clock protection. She's ready to testify when the time comes. Angelo nodded, satisfaction flowing through him. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The trap was set, and his prey were walking right into it, unaware that their own actions and paranoia would soon tear their alliance apart. Send a message to Detective Welch, he instructed Glinda. Anonymous tip about Gary Galloway's warehouse near the lake. Let's see what her search dogs find there. As night fell over the city, Angelo stood at his office window, watching lights flicker in distant buildings. In one of those buildings, he knew, Elvira and Rex were desperately trying to salvage their crumbling empire. Let them try. The evidence was already in motion, the witnesses in place, and the authorities closing in. This was just the beginning of their downfall, but it was a beginning he had orchestrated with meticulous care. Years of planning, of watching and waiting, had led to this moment. Now all he had to do was watch as their world collapsed around them, piece by carefully arranged piece. The first act of his revenge was set in motion, and there would be no stopping it now. Justice, cold and implacable, was finally catching up to those who had betrayed him. Chapter 4. The Fall Begins. Detective Bernice Welch stood in the pre-dawn darkness outside Elvira Cross's mansion, her team of officers positioned strategically around the property. She checked her watch, 5:47 a.m. Move in, she commanded into her radio. The arrest team breached the front door with practiced efficiency. Inside, they found Elvira in her silk pajamas, screaming at the intrusion. What is the meaning of this? Elvira demanded, her perfect makeup already in place despite the early hour. Elvira Cross, Detective Welch stepped forward. You're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. This is ridiculous. I demand to speak to my lawyer. You'll get that chance. Welch nodded to her officers. But first, we need to discuss the body in Miller's Lake. Across town, another team led by Detective Sarah Martinez approached Rex Aguilar's penthouse. They found him attempting to flush documents down his toilet. Stop right there. Martinez's voice rang out. Step away from the bathroom. Hands where I can see them. Rex froze, water and shredded papers splashing around his expensive shoes. I can explain everything. Save it for your interrogation, Martinez replied, cuffing him. We already have your friend Gary Galloway in custody. He's been quite talkative. In his office, Angelo watched the arrests unfold through live updates from his surveillance team. Glinda entered with coffee and a tablet displaying breaking news headlines. Prominent socialite arrested in murder investigation. Business mogul Rex Aguilar linked to organized crime. 3 arrested in connection with Miller's Lake murder. Carlton's articles are hitting all the major outlets, Glinda reported. Social media is exploding with the story. Angelo's phone buzzed, Lola calling. It's done, she said without preamble. Judge Harrison signed the asset freeze orders. Their accounts are locked down. All of them. Everything we could find. Including the offshore accounts Elvira thought were untraceable. She's broke, Angelo. They both are. Through his office window, Angelo watched the sunrise paint the city skyline. What about the shell companies? Frozen. The forensic accountants are having a field day. The fraud goes deeper than we thought. Rex wasn't just laundering money. He was stealing from his own criminal partners. Perfect. Angelo's voice held satisfaction. That should keep him busy explaining things to his cartel friends. At the police station, Detective Welch observed Elvira through the interrogation room window. The socialite's composure had cracked, her mascara smearing as she realized the extent of evidence against her. Mrs. Cross. Welch entered the room. Let's talk about the night of March 15th. I want my lawyer. Of course. But you should know, we have your confession on video. The one you made at Loretta Rowe's house? Very detailed. Elvira's face went pale. That's inadmissible. I was drunk. Maybe. But the DNA evidence from the victim's car isn't. Neither are the transfer records showing you moved millions through Rex's shell companies. Want to explain those? In another interrogation room, Rex was falling apart. Look, this is all a misunderstanding, he stammered. Elvira handled the financial side. I just signed what she told me to sign. Really? Detective Martinez laid out photographs. Because we have security footage of you meeting with known cartel members. Care to explain that? I want immunity, Rex blurted. I'll tell you everything about Elvira's operation. She masterminded the whole thing. Carlton Hurley sat in his editor's office, laying out his next expose. This goes beyond a simple murder case, he explained. We're looking at a criminal enterprise that's operated for years. Money laundering, fraud, connections to international drug cartels. Any comment from the ex-husband? His editor asked. Angelo Cross? No, he's maintaining distance. Smart man. But my sources say he's the one who originally built the company they were stealing from. Must be quite a shock. Angelo's team gathered in his conference room, reviewing the morning's events. Lola spread out financial documents while Glinda updated their tracking board. The DA is pushing for maximum charges, Lola reported. The evidence is overwhelming. They won't be offering plea deals. What about Gary Galloway? Angelo asked. Singing like a bird, Glinda replied. He's terrified of Rex's cartel connections. Wants witness protection. Make sure Detective Welch gets the recordings of his previous activities, Angelo instructed. Let's see how much protection he really deserves. By nightfall, the story dominated every news channel. Security footage showed Elvira and Rex being led into county jail, their designer clothes exchanged for prison jumpsuits. Their booking photos appeared online. Elvira's mask of sophistication completely shattered, Rex's arrogance replaced by fear. Angelo opened his laptop, updating his project file. Phase 2 completed. Targets in custody. Assets frozen. Media coverage extensive. Public humiliation achieved. Note: Rex attempting to blame Elvira. Expected betrayal beginning ahead of schedule. He closed the file, satisfaction coursing through him. The fall had begun, just as he'd planned. But this was only the beginning. The real pressure would come from what they'd discover in those frozen accounts. Secrets that would tear their alliance apart. Chapter 5. The Desperate Backlash. Elvira paced her jail cell, her designer heels replaced by prison slippers. 3 days in custody had stripped away her polished veneer, revealing the desperate woman beneath. I need to make a call, she demanded of the guard. It's important. Your lawyer already visited today, the guard replied disinterestedly. Not my lawyer. I need to contact Angelo Cross. In his office, Angelo listened to the recorded call, Elvira's voice tinged with desperation. Angelo, please. You have to help me. I know you're behind this somehow. I'll do anything. Give you back the money. Sign whatever you want. Just get me out of here. He pressed delete, turning to Glinda. Any other attempts at contact? She's been trying to reach out through mutual friends, Glinda reported. And she's had her lawyer contact Polly, trying to get her to appeal to you. Has Rex made any moves? That's more interesting. Glinda pulled up a surveillance report. He's been meeting with his lawyer twice daily. They're preparing some kind of deal with the D. Let me guess. He's going to throw Elvira under the bus? Already started. He's claiming she masterminded everything, that he was just a patsy who signed documents without reading them. Angelo's laugh was cold. Send an anonymous tip to Elvira's lawyer. Let her know what Rex is planning. In the women's wing of the county jail, Elvira received the news with a scream of rage that echoed through the corridors. That backstabbing bastard! Get me my lawyer. Now. Her lawyer, Alan Sherman, arrived looking harried. Elvira, you need to calm down. Calm down? Rex is trying to pin everything on me. We need to strike first. I want to make a deal. The DA isn't offering deals. The evidence against you both is too strong. Then we'll make them want a deal. Elvira's eyes gleamed with malice. I know things about Rex's operation that the police haven't found yet. Names, dates, locations of bodies. In the men's wing, Rex was having his own crisis. His lawyer had just informed him that Elvira was talking to the DA. She can't prove anything, Rex insisted, but his hands shook as he ran them through his hair. She doesn't need to prove it, his lawyer replied. She just needs to give them enough to investigate. And with your cartel connection, don't say that word, Rex hissed, looking around frantically. If they hear, they already know. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Rex paced his cell. Contact Gary. Tell him to handle Loretta. Without her testimony, Mr. Galloway is in protective custody, his lawyer interrupted. And he's already given his official statement. Then have someone else handle it. I've got people who can. Your accounts are frozen. All of them. Nobody's taking your calls anymore, Rex. In his private office, Detective Welch reviewed the latest transcripts. They're turning on each other, she told her partner. Just like our anonymous friend said they would. Speaking of which, her partner handed her a file. Another package arrived. This one has details about 3 unsolved murders possibly connected to Rex Aguilar. Our tipster's been busy, Welch mused. Almost like they knew exactly where to look. Angelo sat in Lola's office, reviewing their progress. Rex tried to arrange a hit on Loretta? Through his prison contacts, Lola confirmed. But nobody's willing to help him. Word's out about the cartel connection. Nobody wants that heat. And Elvira? Making wild accusations. Claims she has evidence of Rex ordering murders. The DA's office is investigating, but Lola shrugged. She's desperate, throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks. Perfect. Angelo stood, straightening his tie. Time for Phase 3. Release the offshore account details to the cartel's lawyers. You sure about that? Lola asked. It'll sign Rex's death warrant. He signed that himself when he stole from them. I'm just making sure they know exactly how much he took. The next day, Rex received a visitor, a cartel lawyer in an expensive suit. The meeting was brief, but Rex emerged white-faced and shaking. I need protection, he screamed at the guards. You have to move me to segregation. They're going to kill me. In her cell, Elvira received news of Rex's breakdown with savage satisfaction. Serves him right, she told her cellmate. He thought he could blame everything on me? I'll bury him. But her triumph was short-lived. That afternoon, her lawyer arrived with more bad news. They found your private accounts, Sherman said grimly. All of them. The ones in the Caymans, Singapore, Switzerland. That's impossible. Nobody knew about those except Elvira stopped, realization dawning. Angelo. It had to be Angelo. Whoever it was, they've provided documentation of where the money came from. It's all tied to Rex's criminal operations. The DA is adding additional charges. Elvira slumped against the wall. Contact Angelo again. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'll confess to everything. Give back everything. Mrs. Cross, Sherman said quietly, there's nothing left to give back. The accounts are empty. The properties are seized. Even your personal items have been confiscated as proceeds of crime. In his office, Angelo received the news of their desperation with quiet satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Their alliance was fracturing, their resources were gone, and their desperation was leading them to make fatal mistakes. Sir? Glenda entered with a fresh report. Elvira's trying to contact Polly again. She's claiming she has evidence that you've orchestrated this whole thing. Let her try, Angelo replied calmly. Nobody believes anything she says anymore. He turned back to his window, watching the city below. The pieces were falling into place. each betrayal and accusation driving his targets deeper into their own destruction. Soon, they would have nothing left. No money, no friends, no hope. Just as they left him 5 years ago. Chapter 6. The Turning of Tides. Carlton Hurley's latest article hit the internet at midnight, the headline bold and damning. Murder, Money, and Betrayal. The complete story of the Cross Aguilar criminal enterprise. The story laid out years of criminal activity, supported by bank records, witness statements, and surveillance photos. It detailed how Elvira Cross had used her position as a trusted wife to steal millions, how Rex Aguilar had built a criminal empire using legitimate businesses as cover, and how their greed had led to murder. In the county jail's library, Elvira read the article with trembling hands. Each paragraph stripped away another layer of her carefully constructed facade, exposing the truth to public view. "They're calling me a black widow," she whispered to her lawyer. "They're saying I seduced Rex to gain access to Angelo's company, that we planned it all from the beginning." "The evidence is compelling," Sherman replied. "Those emails they found?" "What emails?" Sherman pulled out printouts. Messages between Elvira and Rex, dating back 7 years, before her divorce from Angelo. They outlined their plan. How she would help Rex launder money through Angelo's legitimate businesses, how they would slowly drain the accounts, how they would eventually take control of everything. These were private. Elvira's voice rose hysterically. No one could have accessed these. They were backed up on Rex's cloud server. The police found them when they seized his computers. In the men's wing, Rex faced his own public exposure. His criminal connections were now common knowledge, his reputation destroyed. But worse were the revelations about his personal life. Multiple affairs, his lawyer asked, reviewing the latest articles. "With your business partners' wives?" "Those records were sealed." Rex protested. "Not anymore. Someone provided Mr. Hurley with quite a detailed history of your indiscretions, including photos." Detective Welch added another layer to her investigation board. The anonymous tips had led to a goldmine of evidence, not just about the Millers Lake murder, but about years of criminal activity. "Look at this pattern," she told her partner. "Each piece of evidence leads to another crime, another connection. It's like following a trail of breadcrumbs. Almost too perfect," her partner mused. "Like someone mapped it all out in advance." "Someone did," Welch agreed. "The question is, who? And why now?" In Angelo's office, Lola presented the latest financial analysis. "The forensic accountants have traced everything. The money trail goes back to their first meeting, when Elvira was still your wife, and Rex's other affairs? All documented. Apparently, he kept detailed records, dates, places, gifts he bought them, all paid for with laundered money." Angelo nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. "Make sure copies reach all the affected husbands. Let's see how many more enemies we can make for him." The media coverage intensified. Each day brought new revelations, new scandals, new evidence of corruption and betrayal. Elvira and Rex's faces were splashed across newspapers and television screens, their crimes dissected in loving detail. In her cell, Elvira watched her world crumble. Former friends gave damning interviews, describing her manipulation and cruelty. Business associates stepped forward with stories of fraud and deception. Even her social media history was mined for evidence of her true nature. "They're destroying me," she told her lawyer. "Everything I built, everything I am. It's all being torn apart." "You built it on lies," Sherman replied. "That's the problem." Rex faced similar devastation. His criminal partners, reading about his betrayal in the news, began distancing themselves. The cartel's lawyers made it clear he was on his own. "You don't understand," he begged his lawyer. "I didn't just steal their money. I kept records. Names, dates, transactions. If they think I might talk, then you should have thought of that before you kept such detailed records." The pressure mounted. Elvira and Rex, once united in crime, now turned on each other publicly. She gave interviews from jail, painting him as the mastermind who seduced and corrupted her. He responded with revelations about her other affairs, her secret accounts, her role in planning the Millers Lake murder. Angelo watched it all unfold from his office, each betrayal and accusation another step in his carefully orchestrated plan. The tide had turned, washing away their pretenses and exposures their true natures. Sir? Glenda entered with another update. Detective Welch just interviewed Gary Galloway again. He's admitted to 3 more murders on Rex's orders, and he's offering to reveal locations of bodies in exchange for witness protection. Says he's afraid Rex will have him killed too. Angelo nodded, another piece falling into place. Have our people verify his claims before Detective Welch checks the locations. We don't want any surprises. Already done, Glenda replied. Donnie's team found evidence corroborating at least 2 of the sites. They've documented everything but left it undisturbed for the police. In the interrogation room, Detective Welch faced Gary Galloway across the table. The man had lost weight in custody, his expensive suit replaced by prison orange, his usual swagger replaced by nervous tension. Start from the beginning, Welch commanded. Everything you know about Rex's operation. You don't understand. Gary's voice trembled. If I talk, I'm dead. The cartel doesn't forgive betrayal. You're already talking. Might as well make it count. Gary leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Rex wasn't just laundering their money. He was skimming from each transaction, doctoring the books. The cartel thought they were getting all their money back clean, but Rex was taking a cut off the top. How much? Millions. And Elvira helped him hide it. She created this maze of accounts, moving money through different shells so fast nobody could track it. Except what? Except someone did track it. All of it. Everything we built. Everything we hid. Someone found it all. Someone who knew exactly where to look. In her cell, Elvira paced frantically. The latest news had pushed her over the edge. Not only were her accounts empty, but her safety deposit boxes had been found and seized. Boxes containing evidence she'd kept as insurance against Rex. Get me Angelo, she screamed at her lawyer. He's behind this. He has to be. Nobody else knew about those boxes. Mrs. Cross, Sherman tried to calm her, making accusations without proof. Proof? Look at how this is happening. The timing, the precision, the way everything's being exposed. This is revenge. His revenge. Even if that were true, Sherman said carefully, what could you do about it? The evidence against you is real, regardless of how it was discovered. Elvira slumped against the wall, her designer jumpsuit wrinkled, her carefully maintained appearance cracking. He's destroying us, piece by piece. Everything we built, everything we stole. He's taking it all back. In the men's wing, Rex received more devastating news. His lawyer arrived with photographs, surveillance photos showing his meetings with cartel members, time-stamped and annotated. These were in a sealed file, his lawyer explained. Someone delivered them to the DA's office this morning, along with detailed records of your money laundering operation. No, Rex whispered, his face ashen. Those records were encrypted. Nobody could. Somebody did. And there's more. Your private server? The one with all your insurance files? It's been accessed. Everything you kept to protect yourself. All the dirt you had on your partners, your clients, the cartel. It's in police hands now. Rex collapsed into his chair, reality finally hitting him. It's Angelo Cross, isn't it? This is his revenge. Can you prove that? Prove it? Look at how it's happening. He's not just exposing our crimes. He's systematically destroying everything we built. The money, the connections, the protection we thought we had. He's taking it all apart. In his office, Angelo reviewed the latest updates. Gary's confession had opened new avenues of investigation, leading to more bodies, more crimes, more evidence of Rex and Elvira's depravity. The DA is adding new charges, Lola reported. Murder, conspiracy, racketeering. They're building a case that spans years. And our anonymous tips? Detective Welch suspects they're coming from someone with inside knowledge, but she can't prove anything. The evidence stands on its own. Angelo allowed himself a small smile. Years of planning, of watching and waiting, had led to this moment. His targets were cornered, their resources exhausted, their alliance shattered. They turned on each other like trapped rats, each betrayal exposing more of their crimes. Sir? Glenda entered with a final report for the day. Elvira's trying to make a deal. She's offering to testify against Rex, claiming she can prove he ordered multiple murders. Let her try, Angelo replied. The evidence we've provided is more damaging than anything she could say. He turned to his window, watching night fall over the city. Act 2 was reaching its conclusion, his enemies destroying themselves just as he'd planned. Their desperation, their betrayals, their attempts to save themselves, all of it played into his hands. The tide had turned, washing away their facades and exposing their true natures. And in their desperation to survive, they were revealing even more of their crimes than he'd known about. Justice was being served, not through his direct action, but through their own self-destruction. They had built their empire on betrayal and murder. Now those same forces were tearing it apart. Angelo closed his laptop, satisfaction flowing through him. The unveiling was complete. His enemies were exposed, their crimes laid bare, their alliance shattered. All that remained was to watch as the justice system delivered its final verdict. Act 2 had played out exactly as he'd planned. The stage was set for the final act, but that would come later. For now, he could savor their downfall, knowing that each desperate attempt to save themselves only drove them deeper into the trap he'd set. Chapter 7. The Scales Balanced. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Angelo Cross took his seat in the gallery. His presence commanded attention, though he remained silent, watching the proceedings with calculated interest. The trial of Elvira Cross and Rex Aguilar had become the city's most high-profile case in years. District Attorney Sarah Martinez approached the podium, her voice clear and confident. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you'll hear over the next few weeks isn't just about a hit and run. It's about years of calculated deception, financial fraud, and murder. In the defendant's box, Elvira sat rigidly, her prison jumpsuit a stark contrast to her usual designer wear. Rex, separated from her by their respective lawyers, couldn't stop fidgeting. The evidence will show, Martinez continued, that these defendants built their lifestyle on theft, fraud, and ultimately murder. When their crimes were at risk of exposure, they eliminated the threat, deliberately and with premeditation. Lola leaned close to Angelo, whispering, "They've arranged the evidence perfectly. Each witness builds on the last, creating an unbreakable chain." Angelo nodded slightly, his expression unchanged. The DA's office had followed his anonymous suggestions for the prosecution strategy, though they didn't know it. The first witness was the elderly man who'd seen the car that night. It was swerving, like the driver was drunk. Then I heard the impact, a scream, and the car sped away. And can you identify that car? Silver Mercedes. Same as the one in those photos, Mrs. Cross's car. Elvira's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The jury had heard it. Next came the forensic accountant. We found a complex network of shell companies and offshore accounts. Money would move through multiple entities, making it appear legitimate, but it all traced back to criminal enterprises. And who controlled these accounts? Mrs. Cross and Mr. Aguilar jointly. The signatures and authorizations were quite clear. Rex's lawyer attempted to challenge the evidence's authenticity, but the prosecution was prepared. They had documentation for everything: dates, times, locations, signatures. The parade of witnesses continued. Former employees testified about suspicious transactions. Business partners revealed how they'd been defrauded. Each testimony added another layer to the prosecution's case. Then came Loretta Rowe. "Ms. Rowe," Martinez began, "please tell the court about the night of March 15th. Loretta glanced nervously at Elvira before speaking. "She came to my house, drunk and hysterical. She confessed everything, the hit and run, how they disposed of the body, their whole criminal operation." "And you recorded this confession?" "Yes. My security system caught it all." The courtroom fell silent as the video played. Elvira's drunken voice filled the room, detailing the crime in graphic detail. Even the most hardened reporters looked disturbed. "We hit him," recorded Elvira slurred. "Rex was driving. The man saw something he shouldn't have at the bank. We couldn't let him talk. So when he walked his dog that night..." In the defendant's box, present-day Elvira's face drained of color. Her lawyer quickly requested a recess, but the judge denied it. Gary Galloway's testimony came next. Under witness protection, He spoke freely about Rex's criminal enterprises. He had me dispose of bodies before. The lake wasn't the first time. How many others? 3 that I know of. Business deals gone wrong. People who threatened to expose the operation. Rex exploded, leaping to his feet. You lying bastard. You're just trying to save yourself. Remove the defendant, the judge ordered. As guards led Rex away, he kept shouting threats at Gary. Through it all, Angelo watched silently. His plan was unfolding perfectly. The prosecution built their case systematically, each piece of evidence precisely placed for maximum impact. Detective Welch testified about the investigation. Once we began looking deeper, we found a pattern of criminal activity spanning years. The hit and run was just the tip of the iceberg, and the victim? Thomas Bennett, bank compliance officer. He'd flagged suspicious transactions linked to the defendant's accounts. He was killed before he could file his report. The defense tried to create reasonable doubt, but the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, witness testimony, surveillance footage, DNA evidence. It all pointed to Elvira and Rex's guilt. During a recess, Lola updated Angelo on the jury's reactions. They're convinced. You can see it in their faces. The prosecution's timeline matches perfectly with the evidence. And the offshore accounts? Frozen. The forensic team found everything, just like we planned. They won't have a penny left when this is over. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution laid out years of criminal activity, building an ironclad case. The defense, faced with overwhelming evidence, resorted to desperate tactics. Elvira's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of Rex's manipulation. Rex's lawyer claimed she was the mastermind. Their conflicting defenses only strengthened the prosecution's case. Finally, after both sides rested, the jury retired to deliberate. They returned in less than 4 hours. On the count of first-degree murder, how do you find? We find the defendant, Elvira Cross, guilty. We find the defendant, Rex Aguilar, guilty. The verdicts continued, guilty on all counts. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy, murder. Maximum sentences on each charge, to be served consecutively. Elvira screamed as they led her away. Angelo, I know you did this. I know it was you. He watched her go, his face impassive. Justice had been served, not through violence or illegal means, but through the careful exposition of truth. Later, in his office, he updated his project file one last time. Phase 3 completed. Targets convicted on all counts. Maximum sentences secured. Justice achieved through legal channels. Lola brought in champagne. To justice served. Angelo raised his glass slightly. To consequences. The verdicts made headlines across the country. Carlton Hurley's coverage painted a detailed picture of the case, ensuring the public understood the full scope of Elvira and Rex's crimes. Angelo watched the media coverage with satisfaction. His revenge hadn't required violence or illegal acts. He'd simply exposed the truth, letting their own actions condemn them. The scales were finally balanced. Chapter 8. Moving onward. 2 months after the verdicts, Angelo sat in his office, reviewing the final reports from his team. The aftermath of the trial had reshaped the city's business landscape, exposing corruption far beyond Elvira and Rex's immediate circle. The last of the accounts are cleared, Glenda reported, placing files on his desk. All assets seized, all properties liquidated. They're left with nothing but prison commissary funds. And Gary Galloway? In witness protection, officially. But our sources say he's getting nervous. Keeps looking over his shoulder. Angelo nodded. Gary's betrayal of Rex and Elvira had been useful, but betrayal was still betrayal. Keep tracking him. He'll learn that lesson soon enough. Lola entered with more updates. The appeals were denied. All convictions upheld. They'll serve their full sentences. Their lawyers? Drop them. No money left to pay legal fees. Lola sat down, studying Angelo's expression. You've won, you know. Completely. It was never about winning, Angelo replied. It was about justice. He stood, walking to his desk where a chessboard sat. The pieces were arranged in checkmate, a game he'd started the day of Polly's wedding, played move by move as his plan unfolded. The foundation paperwork is ready, Glenda mentioned. the Cross Foundation for Victims of Domestic Abuse. The press release is scheduled for next week. Angelo approved with a nod. Make sure the first grants go to organizations helping people rebuild after betrayal. Not just physical abuse, emotional and financial too. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. He was using the money recovered from Elvira's theft to help others who'd been betrayed and manipulated. Later that evening, Angelo hosted a private dinner for his core team. Lola, Glinda, Donnie Johns, and Carlton Hurley gathered in a private room at the city's most exclusive restaurant. To successful partnerships, Lola raised her glass. And to loyalty, Angelo added, his gaze moving over each face. These people had proven their worth, their dedication. Unlike Elvira and Rex, they understood the value of trust. What's next? Carlton asked. After exposing a scandal this big, anything else seems anticlimactic. We focus on building, Angelo replied. The foundation, new business ventures, strengthening what we have, and watching our backs, Donnie added. Success breeds enemies. Let them come. Angelo's voice held quiet confidence. We're ready for them. The dinner conversation turned to future plans. Lola was expanding her law practice, specializing in helping fraud victims. Glenda had proven herself worthy of a promotion to chief operating officer. Donnie's investigation firm was flourishing with its enhanced reputation. You've changed all our lives, Glenda observed. You earned it, Angelo replied. Loyalty deserves reward. Betrayal deserves consequences. After dinner, returning to his office, Angelo found a letter waiting. The return address showed it was from the women's state prison. Inside, Elvira's desperate handwriting filled pages with pleas and accusations. She begged for help, then threatened exposure, then begged again. Her words showed her unraveling mental state. Angelo fed the letter into his shredder without reading past the first paragraph. Her words meant nothing now. His phone buzzed, a text from his security team. Gary Galloway had been spotted in a small town 3 states away, living under his witness protection identity. Angelo sent back a single word. Proceed. Lessons about betrayal needed to be thorough. The next morning, Angelo reviewed plans for the Foundation's first project, a secure housing complex for people rebuilding their lives after betrayal and abuse. The irony of using Elvira's seized assets for this purpose gave him particular satisfaction. The contractors are vetted, Glenda reported. Construction starts next month. Good. Make sure they understand our standards. No cutting corners. His new life was taking shape. The pain of betrayal hadn't disappeared. It had transformed into something useful, a tool for helping others while ensuring he remained strong. The office hummed with activity. His legitimate businesses were thriving, expanding into new markets. Success was the best revenge, but he never let it make him vulnerable. Sir? Glenda interrupted his thoughts. Detective Welch is here to see you. Bernice Welch entered, her expression professional but respectful. Mr. Cross. Interesting development in the case. Oh, Gary Galloway. He's requesting additional protection. Says he's being watched. The witness protection program should handle that, Angelo replied smoothly. Should, Welch agreed, studying his face. But we both know there's more to this story, don't we? Justice takes many forms. Detective, she nodded slowly. Just remember, the law has boundaries. Of course, Angelo smiled slightly. I always operate within the law. After she left, he returned to his work. The foundation plans needed attention, and new business opportunities awaited. Life moved forward, but he never forgot the lessons learned. Trust, once broken, was gone forever. Loyalty, when proven, deserved reward. And betrayal always had consequences. Chapter 9. The Echo of Truth. The truth emerged gradually, then all at once. Media coverage of the trial sparked deeper investigations, revealing the full scope of Elvira and Rex's crimes. Carlton Hurley's comprehensive series exposed decades of fraud, manipulation, and murder. The public response is overwhelming, Carlton told Angelo, sharing advance copies of his latest articles. People can't believe the scale of their operation. Truth has power, Angelo replied, reviewing the documents. Especially when it's revealed at the right moment. The articles detailed everything: the money laundering, the murders, the complex web of lies and manipulation. Each revelation sparked new investigations, exposing more criminals connected to their network. In prison, Elvira received the articles with increasing despair. Her lawyer delivered the news of each new exposure, each fresh humiliation. "They're calling me a black widow," she raged during a prison visit. "A monster." "They're calling you what you are," her lawyer replied tiredly. "The evidence speaks for itself." Meanwhile, Angelo had one final task. He reviewed the DNA test results again, then the recording of Elvira's confession about manipulating Polly. The timing had to be perfect. He arranged to meet Polly at a quiet cafe. She arrived looking nervous, her wedding ring already gone, her marriage another casualty of her mother's exposure. "Why did you want to see me?" she asked, hostile but curious. Angelo placed a folder on the table. "Because you deserve the truth. All of it." Inside were the DNA results, along with transcripts of Elvira's conversations about manipulating Polly against him. "I don't want to see this." She pushed the folder away. "Yes, you do. Because you've spent years believing lies. Time to face reality." Polly's hands shook as she read. The DNA results were clear. She wasn't Angelo's biological daughter. The transcripts revealed how Elvira had systematically poisoned her against him, using lies and manipulation to turn a child against her father. "No," she whispered. "This can't be. Your mother's greatest talent was manipulation." Angelo's voice held no warmth. "She used you as a weapon against me. And you let her. I was a child. You're not a child anymore. You made your choices." Tears filled her eyes. "What am I supposed to do now?" "That's not my concern." Angelo stood. "You chose your side. Now you can live with those consequences." He left her there, crying over the truth she'd refused to see for so long. It was harsh, but necessary. Actions had consequences, and blind loyalty to evil deserved no reward. Back in his office, Angelo received another update from his security team. Gary Galloway's witness protection wasn't providing the security he'd hoped for. Strange incidents kept occurring, nothing illegal, nothing traceable, but enough to ensure Gary understood the price of betrayal. "He's paranoid," Glinda reported. "Barely sleeps, jumps at shadows." "Good," Angelo replied. "Let him live with that fear. It's more effective than any physical punishment." The final pieces were falling into place. The truth about Elvira and Rex's crimes was public knowledge. Their empire was destroyed, their reputations ruined, their freedom gone. Everyone who had aided them was facing consequences. Angelo arranged one last visit to the prison where Elvira and Rex were held. They were brought to separate interview rooms, under heavy guard. He visited Rex first. The once charismatic businessman had deteriorated in prison, his expensive suits replaced by prison denim, his confidence shattered. "Come to gloat?" Rex asked bitterly. "No. I came to make sure you understand why you're here. Because you set us up. Because you were criminals who thought you were untouchable. I simply exposed the truth." Rex lunged forward, but his shackles stopped him. "You destroyed everything." "No." Angelo's voice was cold. "You destroyed everything. I just made sure you faced the consequences." Elvira's interview room was last. She tried to smile when he entered, but it faltered at his expression. "Angelo, please," she began. "We could still." "Still what?" He cut her off. "Still pretend you didn't steal from me? Still pretend you didn't murder an innocent man? Still pretend you didn't poison my daughter against me?" "Our daughter, not mine. That's one more lie exposed, isn't it?" Elvira's facade cracked. "You did this. All of it. You destroyed us." "No, Elvira. You destroyed yourselves. I just made sure everyone saw who you really are." He stood, looking down at her. "Enjoy prison. You'll have decades to think about your choices." As he turned to leave, she called out, "I loved you once." "No," he replied without turning back. "You loved what I could give you. There's a difference." Outside the prison, Angelo felt no triumph, no joy, just the quiet satisfaction of justice served. The truth had been exposed, consequences delivered, lessons taught. He returned to his office, where Lola and Glinda waited with the final reports. Gary Galloway's latest message. Glinda handed him a transcript. He's begging for additional protection. Claims he's being followed. The witness protection program has its limits, Angelo remarked coldly. Some betrayals can't be protected against. And Polly? Lola asked carefully. She knows the truth now. All of it. Her choices led her here. Angelo's voice held no regret. She chose to believe Elvira's lies. Now she can live with that decision. His phone buzzed. Another message from his security team monitoring Gary. The man was unraveling, his paranoia growing by the day. Soon, he'd understand that no protection program could shield him from the consequences of his actions. The Foundation's first shelter opens next week, Glinda reported, changing the subject. Press coverage is confirmed. Your speech is ready for review. Angelo nodded, satisfaction flowing through him. The money that Elvira and Rex had stolen would now help others rebuild their lives after betrayal. It was fitting justice. In his private office, he opened his project file one last time. Final phase complete. Justice served through legal means. All targets facing consequences of their actions. Betrayals exposed and punished. Truth revealed to all parties. Project concluded successfully. He closed the file and opened his safe, removing the original phone with Elvira's messages that had started it all. The evidence of her first betrayal, now just one piece in a much larger pattern of deception. Sir? Glinda entered with a final update. Carlton's last article just went live. It's all out there now. Everything they did, everyone they hurt. The public knows the whole story. Angelo allowed himself a small smile. His revenge hadn't required violence or illegal acts. He'd simply exposed the truth, letting their own actions condemn them. Justice, served cold and complete. The office lights dimmed as night fell over the city. In their separate prison cells, Elvira and Rex faced their first night knowing that Angelo had orchestrated their downfall. In his witness protection housing, Gary Galloway jumped at shadows, knowing no program could protect him forever. And somewhere in the city, Polly faced her own harsh truths about loyalty and betrayal. Angelo stood at his window, watching the city lights. He was changed, hardened by betrayal but strengthened by justice. He would never be vulnerable again. Trust, once broken, was gone forever. Loyalty, when proven, deserved reward. And betrayal always had consequences. The story would be told for years. How a man turned betrayal into justice, how truth became the ultimate weapon. But for Angelo Cross, it was simply the price of disloyalty, paid in full. Epilogue. 10 years later, Angelo Cross stood at the podium of the Cross Foundation's 10th annual gala, his presence commanding as ever despite the decade that had passed. The foundation had grown beyond anyone's expectations, helping thousands rebuild their lives after betrayal and abuse. 10 years ago, he addressed the crowd. We made a promise to turn pain into purpose. Today, we've helped over 10,000 people reclaim their lives and dignity. In the audience, Lola Moyer and Glinda McDowell sat at the primary table. Both had risen to new heights in their careers. Lola now headed the city's most prestigious law firm, specializing in prosecuting white-collar crime, while Glinda served as CEO of Cross Enterprises. After his speech, Angelo joined them at the table. The new shelter opens next month, Glinda reported, tablet in hand. That makes 23 facilities across the country. And the legal aid program? Angelo asked. Expanded to 15 states, Lola replied. We've helped over 3,000 victims recover stolen assets this year alone. The foundation had become their most visible success, but it wasn't their only one. Cross Enterprises had tripled in size, its reputation for ethical business practices making it a model for corporate governance. Detective Welch called. Glinda mentioned casually. She's retiring next month. Wanted to know if you'd attend her farewell dinner. Angelo nodded. Over the years, Bernice Welch had become an unlikely ally. She'd never directly acknowledged his role in exposing Elvira and Rex's crimes, but they developed a mutual respect. Any word from our old friends? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Elvira's latest appeal was denied, Lola reported. She's still in maximum security after that escape attempt 3 years ago. Rex. She paused, checking her notes. Still in solitary. The cartel's second attempt on his life came close. And Gary? Glinda's smile held no warmth. Still running. Changed identities 4 times in the past decade. Never stays in one place more than 6 months. Paranoia's eaten him alive. The lesson had been thorough. Gary Galloway lived, but in constant fear. No witness protection program could shield him from the shadow of his betrayal. Every few months, something would happen. Nothing illegal, nothing traceable, but enough to remind him that his actions had consequences. Carlton Hurley approached their table, recorder in hand. The journalist had parlayed his coverage of the Cross case into a successful career investigating corporate crime. "Mr. Cross," he greeted. "Care to comment on the 10-year anniversary of the case that changed everything?" "Justice doesn't expire," Angelo replied simply. "Neither do consequences." After the gala, Angelo returned to his office. The chessboard still sat on his desk, though he'd started many new games since that first one. He never played against others. The game was always against himself, testing strategies and foresight. His phone buzzed, a message from one of his sources at the women's prison. Elvira had tried to send another letter. Like all the others over the past decade, it would never reach him. She'd aged badly in prison, her beauty faded, her manipulation skills dulled by isolation. The other inmates shunned her, having learned about her crimes. She spent her days in desperate attempts to contact the outside world, but all her bridges were burned. Rex had fared worse. The cartel's revenge had been partially successful. He'd survived their attempts, but lived in constant terror. Solitary confinement was his only protection, and even that might not be enough forever. "Sir?" Glinda entered with a familiar file. The quarterly report on Polly. Angelo reviewed it dispassionately. After learning the truth about her parentage and her mother's manipulation, Polly had tried to rebuild her life. She'd moved across the country, changed her name, started over. But the shadow of her choices followed her. "Still seeing the therapist?" "Twice weekly," Glinda confirmed. "She's written several letters asking to meet. File them with the others. Some betrayals couldn't be undone. Polly had made her choice years ago, choosing Elvira's lies over truth. Now she lived with those consequences. Donnie Johns had expanded his investigation firm into a national operation, his reputation built on the exposure of the Cross case. He still handled sensitive matters for Angelo when needed, maintaining their profitable partnership. "The new security protocols are in place," Glinda reported. Donnie's team vetted everyone personally. Angelo had learned his lessons well. Trust was earned through years of loyalty, and even then, verification never stopped. His empire was built on competence and fearsome reputation, but maintained through constant vigilance. Later that evening, Angelo visited one of the Foundation's shelters. The residents didn't know who he was. He preferred to observe anonymously, seeing how his resources were helping others rebuild. A woman was telling her story to a support group. "I thought I'd never recover. He took everything, my money, my confidence, my trust. But here, I found strength again." Angelo listened from the doorway. These stories were familiar. Betrayal, manipulation, theft. But unlike his story, these had happier endings. The Foundation provided legal aid, financial support, and professional training. It gave victims tools to rebuild and protect themselves. Back in his penthouse office, Angelo reviewed the latest expansion plans. The Foundation was opening branches internationally, spreading its mission globally. Each facility would bear the Cross name, a reminder that justice could rise from betrayal. Lola joined him for a late meeting. "The new legal team is ready. All thoroughly vetted, all committed to the mission. And their backgrounds? Clean." Donnie's team went back 3 generations. No connections to any of our old friends. They learned to be thorough. Success bred enemies, and the Cross Empire had many. But Angelo's reputation for dealing with betrayal kept most threats at bay. Those who didn't heed the warnings learned harsh lessons. "There's something else," Lola added. "Remember Thomas Bennett's family? The hit-and-run victim?" Angelo nodded. How could he forget? Bennett's murder had been the key to exposing everything. His daughter graduated law school, top of her class. "She's applying for our legal aid program. Hire her," Angelo decided immediately. Let her help others get justice. It was fitting. The tragedy that had exposed Elvira and Rex's crimes now contributed to helping other victims. Justice had a way of coming full circle. Years of watching Elvira and Rex's downfall had taught valuable lessons. Their empire, built on betrayal and murder, had crumbled. But Angelo's empire, built on exposing truth and delivering consequences, grew stronger each year. The foundation's success particularly satisfied him. Using the recovered money from Elvira's theft to help other victims was perfect justice. Each person helped was another victory, another testament to the consequences of betrayal. Glenda entered with the night's final reports. Gary's on the move again. Got spooked in Seattle, heading east. Angelo smiled slightly. A decade of running, of looking over his shoulder, of jumping at shadows. Gary's punishment was psychological, but no less effective for that. Let him run, Angelo replied. Fear is a better teacher than pain. The city lights spread out below his office, a landscape he'd helped reshape. The cross name now stood for justice and consequences, a warning to those who would betray trust and a beacon for those seeking to rebuild. His phone buzzed, Detective Welch sending a final case update before her retirement. Another fraud exposed, another criminal enterprise dismantled. Their partnership, though never officially acknowledged, had served justice well. Sir? Glenda's voice carried a hint of amusement. Elvira's latest prison interview request was denied. She's claiming she has important information to share. After 10 years? Angelo shook his head. She never learned. Still trying to manipulate, still thinking she can bargain, but her bargaining power was long gone. The truth had stripped away her weapons, leaving her with nothing but regret and time to contemplate her choices. The next morning brought news about Rex. Another inmate had tried to reach him in solitary, someone with cartel connections. The attempt failed, but Rex's terror grew. He'd spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, just like Gary. Angelo reviewed the morning's foundation reports. 3 new success stories: a woman who'd rebuilt her business after partner theft, a man who'd recovered from financial fraud, a family that had escaped domestic abuse. Each one representing justice served, lives rebuilt. The 10-year impact report is ready, Glenda announced. The numbers are impressive. They were more than numbers. They were victories. Each person helped was another blow against betrayal, another testament to the power of justice. The Cross Empire stood as proof that betrayal's consequences were inevitable. Angelo had transformed personal pain into a force for justice, his revenge serving as both warning and inspiration. He opened his project file one last time, adding a final entry. 10 years. Justice served. Lessons taught. Legacy established. The truth echoes through time, and consequences never fade. He closed the file and turned to the window. The city spread before him, changed by his influence but not by his methods. He'd achieved everything through legal means, letting truth be his weapon and justice his vindication. The chessboard waited on his desk, a new game in progress. But the old game, the one that had started at Polly's wedding, had ended in perfect checkmate. His opponents had never seen it coming, never understood until too late that their own actions would be their downfall. Angelo Cross had turned betrayal into an empire of justice, personal pain into public good. His name now stood for consequences, swift, legal, and inevitable. The lesson was clear. Trust, once broken, was gone forever. Loyalty, when proven, deserved reward. And betrayal always had consequences. Some said time healed all wounds, but Angelo knew better. Time didn't heal, it taught, and he'd made sure the lessons would never be forgotten. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.